Welcome to Promote, Profit, Publish. I'm your host, Juliette Clark, and today we are sharing with you one of the monthly calls that we have. This one is called Stop Wasting Time and Start Writing, and I'm doing it in conjunction with Kristy Johnson, our writing development coach, and also Sarah Burke, who is our content development, both team members that work with us on our publishing projects. If you would like to show up to these live and be able to ask questions, we would love to have you go over and take the Author Ready quiz. You can find it at www.authorreadyquiz.com, and you will receive an invite to these monthly events. We don't really sell anything there. It's just information. You have access to all three of us and are able to ask questions. So love this format that we're doing, and I hope it's really helpful, and enjoy. So we're live. Yay! We did it again. So we actually had to do this without Sarah today. Sarah had some personal problems that came up. So we're going to talk today with Kristy Johnson about how to stop wasting time and actually getting that book started, which I think is the biggest thing for people, because they don't really, they don't know where to begin. They don't know how to begin. And that leads to all the mistakes that happen with the book, that it's disorganized, it's not reader-centric, which that is what a good book development coach will do, is help you make the book reader-centric instead of, you just kind of, for lack of a word, blabbing out your story, barfing up your story. So Kristy, take it. Tell us how we can get around all this.
Oh, well, thank you, Juliette. That's true. The vomit draft is a real thing. Well, I think the most important thing for people to know when they have this idea and they know it's good and they know that it's going to help them build their business, but it's spinning in their heads and they're going, but I work too much and I have a family and I have all these things, and how am I ever going to find time to write? And it's what that really is. I'm going to get right to it, you guys. What that really is fear. That's just fear. And the first level of fear that we all have to deal with when we're writing a book is this fear that I don't know how to do it. Especially if you've never done it before, or even people who have written blogs or articles can sometimes get this kind of terror at the idea of doing a book, because the mind expands this book into this big, huge, monstrous, time-sucking thing that's going to last for 2 or 3 years, and it's going to be this ordeal that's going to suck the life out of me, and it's going to destroy my whole world. But really, that's just an illusion. That's just your blocks coming up and trying to, make you submit to their will.
Isn't it, I always find when I write a book that it starts with working with that book development coach about the outline. So getting really streamlined about what you're writing about. And for those of you who don't necessarily have the time to sit down, you do have the time to be in the car or be someplace where you can pull out your phone and start talking about from your outline.
Yes, that is a real thing. I have a current client that I'm working with who works 12 hours a day, 6 days a week, and she has written in 2 months 19 chapters.
That must be Sam. Is that Sam Ayton?
Yes. She's brilliant, and she's extremely busy. But I taught her my secret weapon, which is how you outline a book. This is the book that I'm outlining, that I'm going to write, and how you do it. And she just took that and ran with it. Mm-hmm. And now we're 19. So what happens is when you work with a book development coach is, number one, that person helps you focus that idea so that you're not spinning around like, I could do this and I could do that and I could do this and I could do that. That just makes you confused and makes you, and it's, brings up the fear, because you don't really know. It's kind of like being on a road and you get to this crossroads and you have no idea where you are or which way to go. So if you had someone say, oh, go that way because that way is going to get you to where you want to be, you feel a lot safer and a lot more comfortable. So we, there's a lot of talking, a lot of discussion to focus the idea and make sure it's reader centric. You guys, that is the number one mistakes new authors do, is the story is about them instead of about the reader. So and I can understand that's an understandable thing. So having someone go, okay, we need to develop this a little more. We need to change it from worrying about you to worrying about them. And how is it going to help them transform something in their lives? That's manageable. That's the second mistake, is it's too much information in the book. Because, when you're writing a book and you're an entrepreneur and you have all this massive amount of knowledge about your area, the temptation is to dump it all into the book, and you end up with this giant tome and it doesn't serve the reader. And the problem with that is, if it doesn't serve the reader, they will read a couple pages, and if they're not getting something out of it, they'll just go on to the next book. So yeah, so it's about, it's about focusing, it's about managing your time, and then having a strategy and having someone guide you along the way that keeps you feeling confident in your abilities and in knowing that you're headed in the right direction.
Right.
So that is the most important thing. The second thing that happens, I think the reason people want to put everything they know in, is that there's a level of imposter syndrome happening there.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, like, I really need to show my knowledge, but you have to remember from that, when you get so detailed and get too much in there, that 99% of the people that read your book will not be self-motivated enough to try what's working, what's in there. So you have to be specific enough that they have action steps that they'll be motivated to take.
Yeah.
And then that will lead to other things. But you have to remember that most of those people will read it, they'll do the exercises, maybe, but they, if they don't see action steps that are succinct, they're going to go away, because then it becomes hard
and overwhelming, and
Yes.
you're back in the spin, and you're back in this overwhelming tidal wave of feeling like it's going to suck 2 years of your life away from you.
Yep.
And here's a little mind blower for you. Most books can be done and ready to go to publishing within 6 months. That's especially true if you're working with a developmental editor. My biggest success story was when you called me on New Year's Day and said, I have a client who has to have a book ready, published and ready to go by May, and I need it here in my publishing house by March 1st.
Yeah.
And in 2 months, we went from raw idea to finished manuscript, which is, I still can't, but he did his part and I did my part, and we made it happen.
Yeah.
So
and Eric continues. That was 2018, I think. And Eric continues. He's one of those rare authors who continues to sell books consistently every month today, because he's out. So that was crazy. And everybody was like, oh, what do you mean you need to be here by March?
Yeah. And we did it. But really the secret of that was, he was a clear example of someone who had so much information and wanted to put it all in the book. And I forced him to focus it on this one part, and made him, and the thing that was his aha moment was that the reader can't get all this information. They need this piece that gets them to the next level. And that is the thing you have to realize when you do a book, is you want your reader to have a transformation, but you can't tidal wave them across the continent and expect them to not.
Right. And that was really a challenge for Eric, because Eric is very detailed in what he does with his healing. So that was really a challenge, because Eric is one of those, and he's a little bit of a perfectionist as well.
Yeah.
We love him.
We love him. And he's got
really
massive amounts of information as well. So it just was for him, it was a challenge to just focus it on one thing that for the reader. And then once we got to that point, then it just manifested. The book just manifested. So yeah. And then the other thing, the spending years writing, I think is the other thing that really, which we've already mentioned.
Yeah.
I understand that. I mean, when I was first starting out, I did that. And it was ridiculous. It was like obsessing over every little word. Oh, wait, should this be green or should it be emerald or should I look on the thesaurus and see all the different words for green? And just, it's ridiculous. So it really helps to have someone who can kind of go, is that really important? Or what's the really important part of this here? Is it that word or is it a bigger idea?
I talked to a fiction novelist once who said, I've been writing this novel for 5 years. And I'm like, and where are you at on it? And she said, I'm still on chapter 1. I've rewritten it so many times. And she's like, what do you think I should do? And I was like, finish it. So here's what I'm going to say about the finish it. Don't worry about that first draft. Just get it done. If you don't get it done, you will never have a book.
Right.
And then come back and start refining and that's where that development coach comes in as well, is you got to get it out first and then you can go back and really start refining it down and rewrites. And you don't just rewrite a book once.
No.
How many times, Chris, we get books all the time? Well, I did rewrite it. Yeah.
Yeah. And then I edit it and then sometimes I have to send it back to them with a bunch of comments and say, this is what I want you to do. Then send it back to me and I'll edit it because it's not ready. It's not ready for a final edit. But I would like to say for fiction writers, the key for fiction is to set up the structure of the story before you try to write it, or you will spin off in every direction there could possibly be. And that's why she's having so much trouble.
Tyler Clark, if you're listening.
I love Tyler.
My son wrote a 225,000 word book, and it has been in editing for, gosh, almost a year now.
Yeah, we're on section 3 or 4 now. 4.
Yeah.
We're on section
and unfortunately, Mom doesn't like fantasy, so she's absolutely no help in the process. Like I couldn't. It just doesn't. It doesn't do it for me. I'm a mystery girl, so the critique isn't even there.
Yeah. Tyler does, since he's been learning the structuring, and that's helped him immensely with plotting out the story so that the reader's going, ooh, I want to find out what's happening next. Because the worst thing that anybody wants is for them to go, I'm not going to read this book and go on to the next book. That's the worst thing, that after all the time and blood and sweat and tears you put into a book, it's you want people to read it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So a book coach, a developmental editor, book coaches typically will just send you comments back and help you, whether it's fiction or nonfiction, help you structure it, help you put it in order, help you with the flow and the focus and all that. A developmental editor, like me, I'm kind of a hybrid because I also edit. So I will, I'm fortunate right now that I'm working with some highly literate people and very few typos. So that's kind of nice to have. But, I will fix all those little things too. And then, because the idea is to get it ready to publish.
Yeah.
So, and then it is good to have fresh eyes. So I have a friend who will do a final proof to make sure I didn't miss anything, because when it goes back and forth a lot, authors, this is a real thing that authors have. They miss, their brain starts filling in where there are gaps and they don't realize that there's something missing there. And when I develop for months and months and I've read the manuscript, 5-6 times, I start to get that same thing going. And so I always have a backup of a final proofread before publishing, just to make sure, because the last thing you want is some big boo-boo.
Yeah. Yeah, that's very true. Very, very true. You're lucky that you have employees that can do that for you.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
yeah, you guys, Chris is one of those rare people who actually has a program where you can, get this all outlined and then hand chapter 1 off to her, and she will edit chapter 1, like where you're working in chapter 2. So it's a combination of the organization, the edit, and accountability, which is why Sam has done so well with her, because the book is being edited as it's going along, and Sam has a partner that can say, hey, Sam, in fact, you actually said to Sam last week, you've got too much, we have to stop, which,
Yes.
Sam's a
No more
classic
chapters.
overachiever.
Yes. No more chapters. I need that because she's doing interviews. So I'm like, give me the interviews because we need to put them in. And the book is getting pretty hefty with 19 chapters.
Yeah, exactly. So anything else these guys should know?
The main thing I think is that if you have an idea for a book, you should write it. Because I'm a big believer that when you get an idea and you can feel it, it's your idea to write.
Yeah.
And asking for help with that is not an embarrassment, because writing is a very specific skill. I started writing when I was in my 20s, when I was a brand new teacher teaching in the schools, and it took me a while to learn enough to be able to try to tackle something this big. And it took me years. And then, so I wish I'd had someone like me back then teach me how to do it, because it would have been a lot faster.
Yeah.
But
And
yeah.
I love that thing with the idea. If you guys out there haven't read Elizabeth Gilbert's book, Big Magic, that was my biggest takeaway from that book. Was it's a fabulous book, by the way. She should give me royalties. I sell it so much. But the biggest takeaway was, if universe gives you an idea and you don't act on that idea, they're going to take it and give it to somebody else
Yes.
who will act on it. So, if you've ever been in that position where, you see a book or a TV show or something and you're like, wait, I had that idea. Well, chances are universe took it away because you didn't act on it. And this
Right.
person did. So that's it.
Right.
The other thing I want to mention is, we have the hybrid wing of publishing now. And we don't allow people to bring a book into the hybrid sphere, because these are books that can be in bookstores unless you have worked with a book developer, because we want the best of the best if they're going to be bookstore material. So we require not only that you work with our developmental, not ours, it can be any developmental, that you've worked with a book developer. We also have Jared Rosen, who we work with quite a few of his people as well. But working with our media specialists to actually get you out there, because I'm going to tell you, when you're in a hybrid place with your books, now we're at the point where we are printing books for bookstores, and there is a lot of author risk involved with that. So it's very important that you not only have the best book possible, but that you're engaged with media specialists and people out there promoting that book in the right way, so that people don't return it. Because if it goes into a bookstore, an actual physical bookstore, and it's not purchased, then it does get returned. So very important that you work with someone like that if you're planning on doing a hybrid launch and going for that bookstore part of it. So I want to wrap this up. We promised we would keep these, pretty short. If you're somebody who's been thinking about writing a book, or you need to start building that author platform, we have a content creation crash course that is in June. And that course is actually day one. Each day is 2 hours. Day one is working with Chris on getting that book developed, getting that outline, that idea, and that outline going. Day 2 is 2 hours with me. And in those 2 hours, we're going to dig deep into who is that book for. Everybody looks at the demographics. They don't look at websites and press. They don't look at cross promotion. They don't look at where that audience is actually at that they're going to attract. And I'm going to scare the hell out of you all right now why you need to do this. If you're an entrepreneur and you have a business, this is the same work that's you probably haven't done that's holding you back from getting more business, as well as more eyes on the book. And if you want to make a big bestseller list, you need to be able to leverage about 200,000 people in a list. There's an assumption of how many people will buy. So you've got a lot of work to do if you want to get to a USA Today or Wall Street Journal bestseller, and even more if you want to get to a New York Times. So the dates on that, I forgot, day three is working with Sarah Burke, who's an international content expert. Everybody needs content. That is part of your platform that builds trust. So on day 3, you'll be working with Sarah on which platform am I on? Am I on the right platform? Getting some social media in place and understanding what that content looks like. The course is $797. It's a bargain, guys. And we're probably not going to upsell you into anything else. So don't come into it thinking, oh gosh, these guys are going to sell me a big package. We just want to get everybody started and pretty much introduced to our staff. The dates for this are, I'm looking here and I don't see the dates on our phone. Oh, I'm sorry, June 15th, 16th, and 17th. It's 2 hours a day. So it's not a big chunk of your time. But if you're thinking about it, or even if you need help with that content aspect, or where is my audience, which is a big deal, think about signing up. You can go over to contentcreationcrashcourse.net to grab your spot. www.contentcreationcrashcourse.net, because we're going to be working with you guys like sort of on a group basis, but on a one-on-one, helping you flesh some of this stuff out. We are only taking 15 people at the most. I suspect we're going to get to 10 and probably figure out that that's about our limit. So go grab your spot. And we have another one of these coming up next month. We have another course next month that is talking about, I believe it's content next month, or yeah, I think it's content next month. So anyway, thanks for stopping by.
Yeah.
Chris, where can we find you if we want to know more about what you do?
The best way to reach me is, well, okay, so I also have a retreat business for writers, a writer's retreat. We do writer's retreats, which is starseedjourneyretreats.com. And we have a writer's retreat coming up in September of 2023 in Sedona. And it's going to be fabulous. So you can email me through there at, right on the site, and Kristy at starseedjourneyretreats.com.
Okay,
and cool. yeah, or you can find me on Facebook, Kristy Boyd Johnson, and send me a message. Yeah.
Cool. All right, you guys, thank you. If you want to reach out more about that course, it's contentcreationcrashcourse.net. If you just want to go sign up. If you want to know more, email me at juliet@superbrandpublishing.com, and I'll give you some more details on that. All right, thanks, guys. Have a great week.